Alright, what is up everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about wintertime pond fishing, and specifically ponds. A lot of people think that it is impossible to catch bass in ponds when it's freezing out, but that is absolutely not the case. I'm not going to tell you that it's easy, but you absolutely can do this. We're going to be talking about where to fish, what baits to use, how to fish them, and the proper gear. So let's get started. Alright, so let's start with where to fish. Don't just cast out as far as you can and drag a tiny little bait on the bottom. You're going to be looking for those high percentage areas just like you would any other time of year. If you know where there are offshore features like rocky piles or deep holes, that's great. But odds are in ponds, you usually can't graph like in a boat on a lake. You're going to look for spots like points, bends in the shoreline, deeper holes on shoreline, or just obvious structure. But deeper water is for sure key. These fish will be in the spots where fish will congregate for the winter, and when you find one of these good spots, the fishing can be better than you ever would have expected. So, now, got where to fish, let's move on to the baits. In the wintertime, you don't have as much freedom with bait choice as you would in the warmer weather per se, but you definitely have more options than you would think. You don't need to go straight to the Ned rig or drop shot. There are more options that can sometimes be even more effective. So, yeah, so sometimes it's just a fact that you have to go slow, but when the water's a little bit warmer, and even sometimes when the water is still cold, you can still throw a select few reaction baits. So, bait one we're talking about is the jerkbait. This is always a staple in the cold water month. Just remember, these fish are definitely still lethargic, so you want to be giving this bait long pauses. I'll go more in depth when you go down to the pond and show the retrieve, which will be the second part of this video. And I don't want to really give water temps, but this bait really shines when the water is 40 degrees and up, and like, see, oops, that smashed right into there, but see, have a little jerkbait tied up on the rod right there. So jerkbait is a super fun technique for these winter time bass. So bait two. This bait I'm not going to go super in depth with because it's not my favorite for pond fishing, but bait two, the cold water crankbait. The cold water crankbait is a bait that a lot of people love, but in ponds I don't feel that it is the best due to usually the shallower water, but all you lake guys, this is a killer in those high 40s and up. Definitely not as cold water as a jerkbait, but still awesome. Bait three is the blade bait. Now, I absolutely love the blade bait. The blade bait is a proven bait that has always been an amazing fish catcher in that cold water. It's a little, look at that little bluegill color. That's so nice. The way you fish it is very important, so stay tuned for the final second of the video when you show you the retrieves. It's definitely the coldest water out of the three, the fishing wise. You can fish in the coldest water, and I would say it's an awesome gateway bait to the finesse section. So let's move on now to the more finesse baits. These are the baits that are a lot of them are very small, they're very finesse, and they're not always extremely exciting to fish, but they do work very well in the colder months. So the first finesse bait that I'm going to show you is the drop shot. The drop shot, I absolutely love a drop shot. It's amazing for mostly the little fish that are suspended off the bottom. If you don't know what it is, there's a weight right there. There's a leader to the bait, so that bait hangs up there. And just remember, don't go too crazy on your bait. You don't want a bait with a ton of action. Typically go smaller. That's what as small as big as I would go. This is the 4-inch Strike King Dream Shot. It's one of my all-time absolute favorite drop shot baits. Killer, and just again, go natural on your colors. So those are the baits. You have a ton of awesome drop shot baits. Just remember, go natural, go smaller, and don't have too crazy of an action. So the second bait that I'm going to be talking about in the finesse category is the Ned rig. The Ned rig is an extremely popular do-nothing bait. Amazing for very lazy fish hugging the bottom. Also, rule for all of these baits, like I said, again, go natural on the Ned rig, and just every single one of these baits, go natural. This is the Ned rig. So yeah, that's what a Ned rig looks like. I talked about this in my top 7 best producing baits of 2019 video. The Ned rig is a literally a jig head with a little chunk of plastic that stands up upright like that. And again, I keep on saying this, but I'll show you in depth when you go down to the pond. And that is it. But that is an absolute amazing fish catcher in the cold water. Alright, so bait 3 is the small swim bait. This is another great option for fishing very slow in the bottom. I would stick in that 2.5 to 3.5 inch range. Don't go too big. Don't go on some 4 to 5 inch big swim baits. Really very slow in the bottom. You're not mid-water fishing it like that. This is definitely one of my favorite baits, and my favorite out of these baits would for sure be the Keitech right here. That is the Swing Impact, but also the, I don't have anyone with me, but the Keitech 2.8 Swing Impact Fat is also one. The little Megabass Spark Shad is also one. I have that on little head. That's a killer option, the Okishiro head. So the Keitech, back to the Keitech, at slow speeds, even when you're crawling this bait, that tail, just an awesome, nice little kick at the slowest speed possible. So I had a few days last year where this was just smashing. I'm in very cold water, like 40 degrees and high 30s. So, next bait is the finesse jig. I'm not jig fishing, and we're talking a finesse jig. You can go up to those mid-size finesse jigs, like the 5/16, like those normal finesse cut jigs. But one of my favorites is actually this little Z-Man jig right there. Just tiny little hook. You want proper gear. You don't want it. Also, for all these finesse baits, don't go too heavy on your gear. Really realistic. And the thing about finesse jig is it's super realistic, like I said, and it seems to get a bigger bite, and a lot of the time it's because of the secondary action that it puts off. The all this skirt kind of flares up in the water, and it's similar to a Ned rig in my opinion, especially this specific Z-Man jig is very similar to a Ned rig, but it's just a lot more natural presentation. So yeah, and also this jig, like, it's very small. So bait 5, this is a bait that I am very excited to talk to you about, and not happy that I have to say this because of how amazing it is. But the bait 5 is the weightless drop shot bait. This is a very interesting and unique technique that me and my friend actually discovered last winter. It excels when you have fish isolated, when they're usually suspended or near the bottom in a spot, I would say 4 to 7 feet. What you want to do, you want to take a small and very natural drop shot bait that sinks. Like my favorite right here is the Striking Dream Shot in that super tiny size. It's awesome, and you're going to nose hook it with a tiny little drop shot bait. It is the most finessey and natural little bait that I've ever used. I have smashed fish on this technique when the water was in the 30s, like mid-30s. Like, I caught fish when there's ice on ponds in this. So there are obviously a ton of finesse techniques that work well, but these are the ones that stood out to me. So that wraps up the baits. Let's go down to the pond and show you how to work these baits. Alright guys, so we're coming down here at the pond, ready to show you some of the reeds retrieves. Got some rod with the baits rigged up, got the rest in my pocket. Let's get started. Alright guys, so bait 1 is, that I'm going to show you the action for, or how to work them, is the jerk bait. First, let's go over some gear. I like throwing jerk baits on fluorocarbon. You can throw it on lighter braid to a fluorocarbon leader. But this is a 12-pound fluorocarbon, and I have it on a fast action rod, anything from the 6 to 7 foot range. High speed gear. Definitely don't go too heavy on your line. Definitely, I would love it if I had 10-pound test on here, fluorocarbon. But this will do for now. So what you're gonna do? You're gonna cast where you want to cast. Let the bait. First of all, this bait don't really sink too much until you work them. So you're gonna give it some pops. And a lot of times in the warmer months, you want to work it really fast, like pop, 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 pop. But in the wintertime, you can work like that when it's a little bit warmer. But a lot of times, you're going to want to giving it some long pauses, 5 to 10 seconds, and then just a little. Because what jerkbaits do in the water is you go like yes, twitch, twitch, you dart side to side, and then they just suspend. And the fish will get called up to that, and then next time, pop it, boom, they're on it. Just remember, give it those long pauses. That is the key to wintertime jerkbait fishing. But if you do, and sometimes don't give like a bunch of pops, you can just give it like wait for 10 seconds and then give it one little pop. Like just like a dumb little bait fish that's on its last leg. So, that's how I work the jerkbait. Now, let's move on to the blade bait. Alright guys, the second bait I'm going to show you is the blade bait, the cold water killer. And this is a extremely important bait that you know how to fish. First of all, gear. I have it on 10-pound braid to a 6-pound test fluoro leader, especially with these blade baits because that's a small bait, super tiny hook, so I have it on a very, very soft rod. This rod is extremely soft and can handle those hooks. So what you're going to do, you're going to get your bait, you're going to cast it everywhere you want to cast. You're not going to reel it in. A lot of times you can do that, but with a blade bait, no, you're not going to reel it in. You're going to let it go all the way to the bottom. Then what you're going to do, lift it up and let it fall. You're going to let it vibrate up, pull back to the bottom. It looks like it's like a dying bait fish that's on its last leg, pops up, and then just falls back down. Pops up, follow it back down, pop it up, sink back down. This can be just absolutely deadly for these cold water fish. These fish just can't stand when just that little supernatural little bait, it looks like it's dying, just fluttering up and then just falling down. It's similar to how you'd work a spoon in like different times of the year, but it's super finessey. Sorry about those geese honking over there, but just super finessey and it's an awesome, awesome bait. So now let's go on to some more finesse tactics. Alright guys, so next up is the drop shot. I have a little 1/8 ounce or 1/4 ounce weight with a very light hook, small Strike King Dream Shot, and I have this on 10-pound braid to some 6-pound fluorocarbon. And what you're gonna do the drop shot, very simple. Get it out there, let it go to bottom, and one of the key things, do not overwork your drop shot. Don't give it like in the summertime, your drop shot, and you can go pop it. Oh, first of all, yeah, let it sink to the bottom. You can pop it, keep it moving. Wintertime, what I want to do, I want to let it sink down and just like very, very finessey. Very tiny little twitches, just so if they just kind of just fluttering, like suspended 6 inches above the bottom. Fish cannot stand it. You don't want to go boom, boom, pop, boom, 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 or you don't want to be reeling it fast. Just very slow, very finessey, very light in the tip. Fish can't resist it. Ned rig, a little PB&J color. This is the same combo it's on that blade bait on again. This is a 6'6" medium light, but you can go up to a 7 foot. For sure a medium light. You need a soft rod for this. Again, I have light line, nice smooth drag. Ned rig. Again, cast it out, let it go to bottom, and again, slow. So first of all, you can just drag it. Drag it across the bottom. Drag a few hops in there. That's probably my number one probably. Similar to that drop shot, just giving it some little hops and maybe a little drag. Some days the fish want a little more aggressive, you can start hopping it, but some days they really just want that. Super slow, just dragging it across the bottom again, just like the drop shot. You don't want to be popping it up. I was fishing for smallies one day where I was literally reeling it and going like that. You're not going to want to do that. You're going to want it to have just on the bottom, slow fishing, dragging, giving it a few pops, just like that. Just don't overwork it, don't overthink it. Killer for this winter time. the swim bait. This is a Kitech Swing Impact 3.5 inch, a thin version, not the Swing Impact Fat. This is the thin version. Have it on that same, the 7-foot medium rod, but you can for sure go down. Probably you can throw it on that lighter spinning rod. If you want to, you can get it on like my next rod that I'm going to be throwing the finesse jig on. That is a very extremely finessey bait caster. You could get away with that too. So, swim bait, cast it out there, let it go to bottom. Like another time a year, you could just go casting it mid-column, just chucking and winding, give it some pops, but odds are not even pops, just reeling it. But this time of year, you're not going to want to do that. These fish are not going to chase down a fast-moving bait like that. What you're going to do this time of year, let that bait go to bottom, and it's going to ultra slow. It's not as fun as fishing when it's warmer out. Not as fun. You can't. This entire time of year, you're not going to be getting blown up on top water like you're in the summer. But if you're like me and you just don't want to take a break on how long winter is, depending on what place you are in the country, if you want to catch fish, a lot of times, if they don't want to eat those reaction baits, sometimes you have to go slow. Sometimes even slower. Sometimes you're just crawling that handle super slow. But these swim baits, you can have absolutely amazing days on these, and I like it better than like a bait like a Ned rig and a drop shot, but they all work. I just love this technique. Ultra slow fishing right on the bottom. These fish will pick it up, and it is so fun. So I'm gonna get 2 more baits: the finesse jig, and then that weightless drop shot bait that I was telling you guys about before. So let's go, guys. So now onto the finesse jig, and sorry about the wind. I'm trying to keep my back to it, but my windscreen is not here in the mail yet, so I have to put up with that for the rest of the video. But first of all, I am throwing a bait caster. This is definitely a lighter bait caster. Throwing 15-pound braid. This is a 10-pound leader. You can actually no, this is 8-pound for this tiny little jig, which you can probably throw on a spinning rod as well. But if you're going up to a normal size finesse jig, you can throw this on. You can still throw that on like 10-pound tests on a bait caster. But finesse jig, very similar to a lot of the other finesse techniques. You're gonna throw it out there, let it hit bottom. Just slow drag, give some hops. Very similar to a Ned rig, just in my opinion, just draws some bigger bites sometimes. I think it's really natural, just like dragging it, feel all those rocks, just slowly moving it. And that's all there is to it. Then I got my latest bass it was in late December. A lot of the pond was frozen, and I caught a bass that was on like a tiny little area that was unfrozen on this finesse jig. It is awesome in cold water. So last bait is the weightless drop shot bait. So let's grab that and wrap up this section of the video. Alright guys, so last bait, and saving one of the most important for last, is the weightless drop shot bait. And I already addressed this, but yeah, that's a lot of ducks right there, and they're making a lot of noise. Buddy over there just came in with some bread and is feeding ducks, so like 20 feet away from where I'm trying to film my video. But you know what? We're gonna use the hand that we're dealt. Weightless drop shot bait right there. Have this on that same rod. Super finessey line, definitely most finesse out of all of these. Cast it out. This bait, it's different because you are not going to be, it's not going to go straight to bottom. It's slow. Oh god, those ducks are fighting. It's like, it sinks slow, but like this half shell for sure has a lot of salt in it, so it will give it a nice descent like that. It looks like a bait fish that's kind of dead, kind of like a blade bait, but up off the bottom, dropping down, and then you wanna, boom, little pot. It will just kind of flutter up, and then just sink back, and just start like that slow sink, pop, or just like a little drag up, little machine gun taps like that, and then just boom. I see right there, slowly starts falling that natural color. Right now I have it in a this bait is in a green pumpkin purple, awesome bluegill color. So it just looks like a little baby bluegill that can't survive its winter and is just slowly dying. I know it's dark, but you know what? Bass love eating them. So this bait is, we caught, me and my friend Ethan, Slime Slayer, you've seen him on my channel a bunch of times. We had a day last year, the day when you discovered these. We caught, I don't know, 20 bass when it was in the 30s on this technique, right in this pond, right over there. So, just let us sink down, give us some nice pulls, some pops, and you were hopefully, I'm not going to guarantee it, but you should have awesome luck when fishing for these super lethargic winter bass. So, that wraps up the final section. Let's go back to the house. Alright guys, that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment down below, and we'll see you on the next one.